How's it going, ladies and Bruces? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Sekimeiya. Now, we had some developments in the last episode. Naomi decided to show herself. Although briefly, we haven't actually seen her ourselves, but she wanted to talk to Katai. And now she's apparently hiding out in the crystal room, in the crystal floor. So now they're going down to hunt her down. Because at least some of them are sure that she's the guilty party. But we've been left on like floor 3 to guard the elevator, basically. I think it's just the two of us. So, yeah, I guess we're going to be doing some reminiscing or something. Let's see. Alright then, here we are. Hopefully they can find her and clear everything up. I can't imagine Naomi hiding from them unless you know something about some secret spot. Yeah, it won't take very long either. I'm curious to see what will happen. It's unfortunate she appeared while we weren't there. But it's very likely she actually did appear since the three of them would have no reason to lie together. Do you think that maybe Naomi had never showed up? No, not really. I just couldn't take it completely seriously since we hadn't seen her. You thought Katai was lying to us earlier, right? Have you changed your mind? Thinking back on what Katai had just said, I wasn't sure how to approach it. I don't know. Honestly, everything Katai said regarding Naomi just now sounded very questionable, but it seemed like he really wanted us to find her. You heard how determined he sounded. I'm not sure he'd lie about what Naomi told him to make us find her. So it's likely it was all the truth. I'm really not sure. Anyway, how are you holding up? So I've just been trying to think about... We were both startled, though louder and clearer, the same sound we'd heard earlier repeated. It's the elevator. She took the elevator. Why would she run away? I recalled what Sai had said too late. We weren't close enough to stop it on the 4th floor. Trying to avoid wasting time, we ran toward the other side to arrive at her destination before we missed her. In our defense, we heard the sound of the elevator when the elevator had been about to pass us by, so stopping it in time wouldn't have been possible. We should have just kept it open. I didn't think she'd actually go up. And I didn't think fast enough. Damn it! Sai just wanted us to keep them in place. Shiroya ran behind me. I wanted to tell her to slow down and let me go by myself, but I would have been inconsiderate. If I thought going up was dangerous, I would have tried to make her stay behind, but if Naomi was doing the running around defenseless, the odds were probably in our favour. Even though the floors were very wide, the path to the next one was straightforward enough to make it a quick trip. We arrived on floor 5. We thought the elevator hadn't stopped there because it seemed to linger for a bit too long. But I still quickly went through the 3 partitions while Shiroya stayed next to the first door. As I thought, they were empty. I met Shiroya by the door with a dubious look. We would hear it if Naomi used the elevator to go back down, so there was no way she would make it past us unnoticed. Nothing, she must be upstairs. We directed ourselves toward the 6th floor, but Shiroya stopped me. Hold on, let's check this. She tried to open the elevator, but the door didn't budge. Since that meant it was above us, she pressed the button to call it. Shortly, the button lit up orange in silence, then Shiroya opened the door, and we saw the empty elevator. With how fast it got here, it must have been on the 6th floor. Technically, there was just one more possibility. The attic. A special key was needed though, and Shiroya was right. The elevator had only taken a few seconds to arrive, indicating that there had been only a single floor of separation. By moving it, we also prevented Naomi from using it upstairs. Block it open. We quickly went up to the 6th floor where the elevator had been brought. It hadn't been used again, so someone had to remain there. It was likely Naomi was very close. The bathrooms were empty, so she had to be further ahead. I'll go check, make sure nobody can leave. What? It might not be safe. Don't just go alone. With a meaningless head gesture, she ran off and left me by myself. She was clearly not content with the thought of waiting behind again. I knew I had to go with her. Letting someone escape was far less important than letting Shiroya confront potential danger, but I couldn't bring myself to move. She disappeared from my field of vision. Given the layout of the floor, she wouldn't be able to make sure nobody could sneak past her, so I had to wait behind in anticipation. If she first checked the opposite corridor and someone was hiding in the partitions, they could then escape. If someone was in the corridor and she chose to first inspect the partitions, they could also escape. However, such a thing didn't actually hold up well. To inspect the corridor, she would only have to see if it was an empty room from a position that would still let her see the inside of the first partition. They could let the culprit escape, but at least they'd be seen. I felt like she'd known I'd been about to ask her to try and stay behind, and had chosen to change our roles before I had a chance to. Trying not to let undecided thoughts get the best of me, I attempted to stay calm as Shiroya had asked. After half a minute had passed, I began to get impatient and a bit anxious. While the floor was big, it was also silent, so if she felt that she was in danger, I'd be able to hear her shout easily. Only a few seconds after that, I snapped. What was I doing standing there and leaving her up against an unknown person who could be involved in the attack? I took off running as soon as the realization finally came to me. Or I'd been about to before I saw Shiroya's figure come out from the narrow passageway. She approached me slowly and noticed my anxiety. Did something happen? No, nothing. You took a bit, so I started to worry. Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't find anyone though. How's that possible? There should have been someone. I know, but look. This is what I wanted to show you. Huh? Once again, she walked back to where she'd come from, instructing me to follow her. Had she found something important? Instead of stopping in front of the partition, she continued toward the other corridor. Earlier, we had deemed this corridor empty, so quickly that we completely missed the door. What? Yeah, look, but it's closed. She was right. At the far back of what had appeared to be a dead end, there was a small door that we'd entirely missed. Oh, of course. We were told this door existed. It looked just like a plain door. Instinctively, I reached for the doorknob and tried to get it to open to no avail. It was very tightly locked. Under it was a big keyhole that would require an equally big key to unlock the special section of the tower. So past this door must be the attic, where Ashiya lived for years. Yes, it has to be that. There must be different stairs leading up to it since it's a floor higher. Right, so it's very likely whoever came up here had a way to open this door. There's no other explanation, really. Maybe it's that key we found on the floor. That's a big key. It's one of those big old keys. I thought about it for a little and it doesn't make sense to me. I looked through this corridor first, and since you were covering the only exit, I knew I had plenty of time, so I walked further and realized we'd missed this door. I tried to open it, but it was already locked. Then I went to the partitions, which were empty. Since nobody could have left this floor, the only explanation is that they went through here. What doesn't make sense to me is that they got off on this floor with the elevator. You're right, we determined it was here, so if whoever used it was able to open this door, they would have just taken the elevator all the way up. Yeah, Katai said earlier that the required key works for both the door and the elevator. I tried to look through the keyhole and under the door, but nothing could be seen. Was there someone behind it, possibly listening to us? We went up fast, so I doubt they could have taken the elevator up to the attic and then sent it to the 6th floor to conceal where they'd gone. Yeah, we experienced how slow it was. There wouldn't have been time for that. I thought that maybe this door was already unlocked or that they had the key hidden somewhere on this floor. I doubt the door was unlocked. We could have easily found it earlier, so they wouldn't have let us enter it like that. Also, it's locked now. If it was actually open, unless it could be manually locked from the inside, they must have had the key. But a lot of doors can be manually locked from the inside. I stayed quiet for a bit. Were we on the right line of thinking? If the culprit had access to the attic, a few things we'd considered would be invalidated. What if the elevator was empty? And someone sent it here from the crystal floor? I'm not sure what the intention would be, but it's possible whoever sent it was hoping to lure us out of where we were. Oh yeah, if they wanted to get to the 4th floor, they could have sent the elevator to make us follow it. But that seems pointless. It'd give them time, but they'd still be cornered. It's very easy to inspect every floor. And Sai did say that he would check the 2nd and 3rd floors before staying in hallway C. Unless he was the one who was moving it, the culprit would also had made it past him. Such a theory sounded very unlikely, but if it was right, we'd soon find out. We couldn't know if the elevator had moved before the others had reached the crystal floor. I was also thinking that if the person we searched for has access to the attic, they might have been responsible for the first time we heard the elevator. We made sure floors 5 and 6 were empty, but if the person was 1 floor higher, they could have called the elevator resting on floor 6 and then gone down with it. That would explain why it didn't immediately go back up. Then the same person must have been who used it just now. It's possible they got off on floor 6 instead of the attic, because they knew it would be empty and could easily reach this door. If we noticed the elevator and followed it, it would appear that the elevator had been empty. But if they had gone directly to the attic instead, we could have noticed that it arrived there if we quickly called the elevator. I see. Something along these lines might make the most sense. We should go see if the others found Naomi. We slowly walked back. I'd always seen Shiroya as a smart person, and she'd just shown that sharing my thoughts with her was a good idea despite her recent frame of mind. Perhaps she would have been silently thinking by herself until then. Regardless, that had been the longest conversation we'd had in many days, but it already felt like we were many steps closer to normalcy. What had happened exactly with her? That's what I want to know. I want to know that more than I want to know what's going on here. I knew things wouldn't quite feel right for a much longer time, but if we went back to being our normal selves around each other, we could get there much quicker. I kept thinking about it lately. I didn't know if the fact that my main wish was to go back to how things used to be meant that I was a bad person, but I couldn't change the way I felt. Before we reached the staircase, we noticed that fast but quiet footsteps were approaching. We stopped awkwardly and waited to see who they belonged to. It was Akira. He came running from floor 5. What are you doing here? We need you to come to the crystal floor. Did you find Naomi? No, quite the opposite. Sai said that all of us should be there to discuss what happened. Alright, let's go then. Akira, out of breath, turned around without wasting time. I didn't think you'd be on the highest floor. Weren't you supposed to wait on the 4th? We began to go down the stairs. Meanwhile, we told Akira that we determined the elevator had stopped on the 6th floor and that we hadn't found anyone. Our conversation continued as we quickly circled through floors 5 and 4. Akira was hurrying up a fair bit, having not given us much context. Oh right, we vaguely heard the elevator going up too, but Sai told us not to chase it since you two would take care of it, and could have been sent as bait. I suppose he gave us too much credit. We didn't react immediately, but I doubt we could have intercepted it. Those were the last words we heard during the way down, as neither of them chose to reply with anything else. Once we made it to the last set of stairs, we slowed down as our pace as I began to think about what could have happened to warrant the demand of our immediate presence. The others were all next to the stairs waiting for us. That took a bit. Where were you? On the 6th floor. Oh, so you had to check every floor. I just ran up hoping to eventually find them, and they said they hadn't seen anyone. It's where the elevator stopped, but we were not sure anybody came out of it. So I was right, for some reason they just wanted it to be followed. I doubt it honestly. They could only gain time doing that, which, given there are 11 hours left, seems silly. It's possible that they don't know that they've been trapped here for 12 hours, but they can't simply be trying to buy themselves time. I think they actually might have escaped by using the elevator. How? Before that, why don't you tell us what happened? Was Naomi here? I couldn't see her, but so it was safe to assume that that wasn't the case. I wanted to get straight to the point before suggesting that the person hiding it from us might have access to the attic. We haven't looked through the whole floor yet, actually. I quickly made sure nobody was on the 3rd floor and 2nd floors, while others prevented anyone from sneaking past. That was when the elevator was used, and I assumed you couldn't stop it. No, we weren't expecting it so soon. Whatever. We went to the 1st floor and Katai's search method was put into effect. He went ahead and looked through the lobby and the mechanical room. When he was done, he stayed next to the door leading to hallway B. Akira began to look through the hallway B rooms, having previously looked at the bathrooms. Isla wanted to join him, so Edina had to follow behind. The 3 of them started to enter the rooms, while I stayed here, looking at hallway A so that nobody could escape. Since the elevator had already gone up, it was pointless to call it and leave its door open. I couldn't see the 3 of them looking inside the rooms, since I was staring at the other hallway and blocking the staircase though. Anyway, apparently when they entered the event room, Isla went ahead and raised the curtain of the cabinet. The "it's gone" shout I heard, even from here, conveyed her surprise pretty well. The Sekimeiya is gone. What? The Sekimeiya is gone? Yes, it should have still been there, but I didn't see it anywhere. Katai abandoned his position after hearing Isla's shout, but I didn't want to rush inside and leave an easy escape route open. When they came and told me what had happened, I thought you two had to come. Since we were dealing with the situation, I found it appropriate to join up and make sure nothing slipped away. I told Akira to go find you, and I took that time to check if it had truly disappeared while the others waited here. It did. Staying there a while, thinking about what could have happened, and expecting to find you two when I came back. Anyways, many rooms have not yet been investigated. We stayed here until you came back to secure the only exits. I understand. It's good that the stairs and the elevator are next to each other. Can I go see it? If you're looking forward to seeing an empty cabinet, go ahead. As long as somebody stays here, we can move through this floor. Everyone else had been looking at us without uttering a word. Shiroi and I slowly walked toward hallway A, and as we saw that nobody was stopping us, we sped up to the event room. It's really not here. I suppose he was right. There wasn't much of a point in checking. Not really. We left through the same door and approached the others as I thought about it. What had happened? Were there really that many possibilities? Was it gone, or did we all lie? Apparently not. The Sekimeiya has been stolen this early, which is surprising. Anyone have a suggestion regarding what could have happened before we resume our search? It could only have been Naomi, right? No. It could only have been Naomi, Katai, or an unknown person. Will you never stop suspecting me? It seems not. When we split up in two groups, it's possible either Naomi or an unknown person had already stolen the Sekimeiya. That's very easy to construct. When we were in hallway B, Naomi could have entered the event room from hallway A, for example. The group that took the elevator, Atsuki, Shiroya, Edina, and Isla, couldn't have gotten to this floor. Are you sure? It's possible they went past us and we didn't notice. You already tried to say this earlier, didn't you? They couldn't have done that. The way we looked through the floors would have made it impossible, and they couldn't have used the elevator since we heard it only once. And naturally, when you came here with Naomi, you would have had an easy time picking up the Sekimeiya and then hiding it somewhere. Later, we checked that mechanical room you were happy to inspect. This is ridiculous. Didn't I say how important it was for the Sekimeiya to stay in the cabinet? Why would I hide it? There aren't even places to hide it in this building, it would be pointless. I will admit I have no idea what your reason could be, but similarly, I can't think of one regardless of who the culprit is. As you say, there aren't many hiding spots and it's very early for this. If one thing's for sure, it's that right now the Sekimeiya must be on this floor with the culprit. There's no other possibility, unless you question me and think that Akato and I could have gone down instead of waiting on floor 4. I don't believe that's true. You looked through floors 3 and 2 for Naomi, but if the Sekimeiya was left there, you might have missed it. Oh, correct. That's a possibility too, but since the elevator that went up was probably empty, nobody could be upstairs now to go pick it up and hide it further, so we can easily look for it above if nothing's found on this floor. Even though floors 2 and 3 were a possibility, I knew it was also very possible the culprit had gone to the attic holding the Sekimeiya. If our search amounted to nothing, I would bring up the conclusion Shiroya and I had reached. Let's proceed then. We'll need to start from the beginning. Someone else go look through the lobby and the mechanical room though. Maybe we should start with that one. I directed my look at the room where the gemstones had been stolen, A5. Because of the camera? Yes, like Sai said, hiding anything on this floor right now seems weird since we should be able to find it easily. We have plenty of time, and it's not a hard task, not to mention that even if we can't find it, Ashiya surely will. It feels pretty redundant. But there must be an actual reason behind it. And if they really intend to hide it from us, a room that's not being recorded seems like the most likely place. Even if it's found, Ashiya will never be able to look at the footage to see who hid it. This is a bit confusing though. It's true that our 3 suspects, Katai, Naomi and unknown person, all of them would have had access to the Sekimeiya while we were asleep. So I wonder why they didn't hide it then. That's true. Well, we can look there first if someone stays here. Sai walked to the room and gestured at me to follow him. Everyone else stayed next to the stairs, as it wasn't yet a thorough search that would require further positioning. Let's see. We should keep the door open, otherwise we won't see anything. At first glance, there wasn't anything odd in the room. It looked as it had when we'd last been there. Even though the cabinets were the only things inside, Sai started slowly examining them. I began looking through the opposite side of the room. Shortly I confirmed that places to hide a small object certainly existed. Behind the cabinets, under the pillows that normally held gemstones, the cabinet even had empty drawers. As I looked at Sai, I realised that even though their looks were nearly identical, not every cabinet was the same. I was looking inside the expansive interior of a cabinet after he'd opened up the heavy-looking lid. It seemed that the upper sections where the gemstones usually were could be lifted up. Is there anything there? Yes. Some of these now have hollow interiors, most likely to store things. Look though. I had to get close to him as the lack of illumination made it impossible to see what he was holding. It was nothing noteworthy. He was cupping a small yellow gemstone on his palm. They must have kept some of these inside the cabinets to swap out the displayed one. Apparently not all of the room's valuables were stolen. I see. I guess it could make for a decent hiding spot. Sort of. The others were taken a while earlier, so they probably opened up some of the cabinets too. There's still an obvious spot if you're trying to find something. I went ahead and opened up the cabinet that looked like the one Sai was next to. It was a lot easier than it looked, and a wide but completely empty compartment appeared before me. As all the display pieces were usually attached to the surface below the glass, when the lid was opened up like a chest, they didn't roll. There's nothing in this one. Yeah, the first one I looked at was empty as well. Not many more cabinets were left. Shortly after that, we looked through all of them. It seems you're wrong, it's not here. I started to go over the cabinets Sai had looked through, to be confident. Do you doubt my searching abilities, or do you think I hid it here and ignored it? Neither, I just want to make sure we don't miss anything. I answered without looking at him. It didn't take me long to come to the same conclusion. The Sekimeiya was not in the room. Are you done? We'll take forever if every room takes us this long. Well, we got 11 fucking hours, dude. And it's only been one so far. We should probably look for anyone on this floor and then do a slower search for the Sekimeiya. The chance of someone and the Sekimeiya being here are pretty much the same. That could be a good idea. Let's go back. When he turned around, I fixed my eyes on Sai's back, specifically at the hip pack going around his waist. He stopped when he noticed I was still staring at him. Are you looking at this? He turned it around him and showed me its contents. I could only see a wallet and lip balm appropriate for the cold. Don't be stupid, it might fit in here, but it'd be more than noticeable. You think I'd found it and masterfully put it in without your notice? Oh no, I was just looking at it. I quite like it too. One of those birthday presents I first shrugged off and then ended up using frequently. Once again, he turned around and quickly left the room. I sighed and followed his steps. Outside, he was already next to the others. Anything? Nothing. I tried to think of places where the Sekimeiya could have been hidden, but I couldn't come up with any good ones. If it was still on the crystal floor, we should be able to find it. A locker, maybe? That's the only safe place I can think of. Oh, how about there? The suitcase was still on the floor of hallway C. Did they bank on us not checking it again? As I got closer to it, my confidence in that theory decreased. Surely they hadn't relied on such a simple trick. It was still empty. Let's start then. I suppose checking the bathrooms again is pointless since nobody could have entered them. Without waiting, Arcado stood up and headed toward hallway B. Isla followed behind, which obligated Edna to go with them. Let's continue with hallway A actually. It's about time we find out if someone else is here. So let's first check for that. Arcado, before you move on to hallway B, look through the mechanical room too. Mind being the one in the lobby this time, Atsuki? Kitai and I will stay here to watch hallway B. Sure. The others accepted it easily and began with hallway A, ignoring the room we'd just gotten out of. Presumptuous as it was, Sai could have kept ordering us around as long as it was efficient. Since Shiroya didn't have a fixed position, she moved to the lobby door with me. From there, we looked at the three people checking every room. Arcado led the pack. My first idea had been that someone might have left the Sekimeiya inside a room without active security cameras. While the first location had been incorrect, that was still the most likely possibility. 5 of the rooms that met that criterion were still available: the staff room, the cleaning room, the mechanical room, the security room, and the storeroom. I looked inside the cleaning bucket, the only place in the lobby where the Sekimeiya could have been hidden from view, but it only contained soapy water. They didn't tip out the soapy water? Come on man, fire that janitor. The storeroom was examined, but they were just quickly looking for people, not the Sekimeiya. It was very possible that it was in one of those rooms, and if, for example, Naomi had put it inside her locker in the staff room, there wasn't much we could do about it. That was one of the only good hiding spots I could think of. They entered the event room once again. Then the security room, another place that allowed for an easy way to it without being spotted by cameras, was acknowledged as clean. Once I'd seen them come out of every room and claimed that nobody had been in them, Arcado went to look at the mechanical room. Even though Isla remained outside, uninterested, Edna joined him as well. They took considerably longer time with it since the messy interior made a proper search difficult. Once they returned, their looks indicated that again, nothing of relevance had been found inside, refuting Sai's suspicion. Afterwards they moved on to hallway B. Shiroya and I walked past the hallway B door too, as it wasn't necessary to keep watching A any longer. As soon as it had been deemed empty, the only remaining concern was whether somebody could move from hallway B to A through the event room, and since Sai and Kitai had watched hallway B, it wasn't really a possibility. Technically only 2 people were needed to optimally search through the whole floor, as long as someone stayed next to the stairs while looking at hallway A. Then the other person could safely look through every room. We'd only been doing it differently because it was what Kitai had suggested. They started from the rooms on the lobby side onward. Shiroya and I could clearly see Sai and Kitai standing on the other exit of the hallway, enacting tight control over the few rooms that remained for Naomi or an extra person to be inside. If nobody was found in them, that possibility Shiroya and I had come up with would almost be confirmed. That the actual culprit had been in the attic until we'd heard the elevator go down, and that they'd brought the Sekimeiya up with them to hide on the floor we couldn't access. As that theory grew more likely, I thought further on it and quickly picked up on an important inconsistency. Arcado and Sai had said that when they'd heard the elevator sound, Naomi had already shown up and left with Kitai. If that's the case, Naomi could not have been in the attic, the way I constructed my theory. To make it work, I had to slightly change it. Nothing was out of place if we'd missed Naomi and we inspected the crystal floor together. She had gone up to the 3rd floor to talk with Katai, and then called the elevator to keep it on the 1st floor. Later, she used it to move to the attic as soon as she obtained the Sekimeiya, probably because she realised she couldn't convince Katai. The first 3 rooms were handled with ease, and the others kept going, and looked through the event room once again, despite the fact that it was impossible anything in it had changed. Nonchalantly, almost forgetting what could have been resting in any of the rooms, Arcado opened the door in front of it. He looked inside and his body froze. From afar, I was able to see his expression shifting to a blank and pale one. With his hands on the doorknob, he turned around, frantically trying to meet someone's gaze. What's wrong? Anything inside? The silent corridors allowed us to make out their words. On the other side, Sai and Katai had also realised that something unusual was inside that room. What? Isla, stop! Editor, after peeking over Arcado's shoulders, immediately pushed Isla aside, who had been about to glance into the room. Is it Naomi's corpse? Katai, stop murdering people. Let me see. Guys, come here. It seems we went wrong. With an altered voice, Arcado instructed that we could abandon our positions as the search had finished. A little tense, we went to see what had caused these reactions. Sai brushed past Arcado to see what had been found. Despite his effort at appearing unfazed and composed, the moment he set his eye inside, he was visibly startled. Seriously? The room, B4, was in the middle of the hallway. Katai, Shiroya and I arrived at the same time, silently glancing at each other. Edina was still tightly holding Isla, and both of them moved back to let us see through the door. Oh god, no. It didn't take us a second to understand it. On the floor lay the body of Naomi over a pool of blood. On the wall, close to the door, were traces of more blood. Not only that, but a strange odour became noticeable as soon as I stepped inside. I couldn't associate it to anything, but it wasn't prominent enough to be aggravating. Katai, if you're gonna kill someone, don't make it so obvious. That's what I said. The mood abruptly changed as Sai's careless words. It had happened earlier, but that time, we all found it far over the line, especially Edina, who had been trying to keep Isla unaware of what had happened. You must be joking. Don't even think about accusing me. You're the only one who's seen her. Down here. Sai moved over to the body. With 2 fingers, he confirmed its status. She's definitely dead. She probably already was when we got back to this floor. This room wasn't searched earlier, right? No, we stopped at the event room. This one was next, so you could be right. No, that's... Wait. Isla hadn't yet put up any resistance, was able to escape from Edina's grip. Her shock increased even further as she understood that we hadn't been lying. But that's impossible. Why did... It's clearly possible, just look at it. And I'll sure think about it. Katai, you're the only person who could have done this. While they were audibly reacting, I found myself slightly aghast, which I hadn't been prepared for. I'd been carelessly going over the incident, but as soon as the image of the dead Naomi had met my eyes, any focus on reality had departed from my body. Shiroya at my side looked identical to me. The concept of death and loss had recently been changed for us. She and I hadn't had to experience it until 2 weeks ago, when the world we'd created together had crumpled down without warning. Naomi's lifeless body was an immediate reminder, one that had come as soon as I started having hope for the future again. I looked at Shiroya's face as the others kept spitting meaningless words. Nothing but fright was present all over it, but perhaps the others wouldn't have noticed it. Their effort at moving on had been denied by reality, which had put us back in our place. I never knew how to respond. Thoughtless reassurance wouldn't achieve anything. However, even though it might not have been any help, I tried to pull all my uncertain words into a hand that I placed on his shoulder to distance myself from the insentient and inanimate support I'd been until then. Shit. Is that the end of the chapter, is it? Alright, well, I know it's a little bit earlier than usual because we're not quite at half an hour. Pretty close, so I say this is a perfect time to wrap it up, though. So you had the nice black screen, and now we're going into backstory. This is what I wanted to know about, Shiroya's backstory. Or this whole whatever death happened that caused this change in her attitude or her personality or whatever. So I guess we're going to find out about that in the next episode. Until then, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.